Well, hello there and good afternoon. I'm Sherry Johnson, the moderator of today's Broker Series webinar from RISMedia. And I'm so excited. We're going to be talking about niche markets that create more revenue for your brokerage. Our sponsor today is Property Base. We have an exciting panel. I've got unbelievably talented leaders today from all areas of the country that are going to be sharing different ways that you can use the niche market to grow revenue for your brokerage. And before we really jump in and people are still getting on, please go into the chat and into the questions rather, and let us know where you're tuning in from, what state, what city you're tuning in from, so we get to know some of you and we can see who's on here. If you do have questions for us and the panelists, please put those into the question box right there in the GoToMeeting control panel. And just to let you know, we are recording today's webinar, so you will be receiving a playback of the webinar, including a free giveaway from our sponsor as well. So I'm going to get started by introducing our panelists and sponsor. And again, let us know where you're tuning in from so that we can say hello and reach out to you. Again, this is today's program and today's webinar being brought to you by Property Base, powered by Lone Wolf, and John Voigt, who's with us today. Hi, John.
Hi, Sherry. Thanks
Awesome
for having me.
Have you. Thank you so much for sponsoring today's webinar. So great to have you. And I'm really excited. My friend and exceptional leader, Joan Doctor, is here from Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Fox and Roach Realtors. Hi, Joan.
Hi, Sherry. It's great to be with you, and you're making me blush.
Well, you're just literally, one of the best in the country. So this is an honor to have you on today. And also, we're excited. I've got Kofi Nardi from Global Red. Hi, Kofi. Great to have you.
How are you?
You've got some exciting things to share. I'm really thrilled. You've got an unbelievable lot of niche value propositions that you're going to be sharing with us today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So before we go further, I should probably introduce myself. I'm Sherry Johnson, CEO and founder of Sherry Johnson Coaching and Consulting. We are based out of Cleveland, Ohio. I've got over 26 years in real estate management and brokerage experience, and I'm moderating today's webinar, and I'm excited to bring it to you. I'm also thrilled to be partnering with RISMedia as well. Joan, we're gonna have each of you just tell us a little bit about the size and scope of your companies, just to let the listeners know, what company you're at, what your role is. Joan, I'll start out with you first. You're president and of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Fox and Roach, out of Philadelphia. I think you have about 5,000 agents. Is that correct?
Yes, Sherry. We have about 5,200 agents. We have 72 offices, and we're in 3 states actually. We're in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. And it is the Delaware Valley. It's the surrounding markets from Philadelphia. And we've always believed that we should be very dense in the market we're in and be a large regional broker rather than be scattered, because that way people would know. So we've kind of grown from the middle out. And so actually now we go all the way up to Rumson, New Jersey, down through Cape May, New Jersey, up to the Lehigh Valley in Pennsylvania, and into Newcastle, Delaware, which is the northern part of Delaware. So yeah, and so I couldn't. It used to be that everyone in our market rooted for the Phillies and the Eagles, but now we've got Giants people. So right. We've kind of turned the corner here, and we have to kind of expand our minds.
That's right, the fan base.
Yeah.
And have all of that. That's awesome. Thanks again for being here. I know you're going to share some really great ways of looking at what you've done over the years, many years, growing really one of the most admired companies in the country. So I'm looking forward to what you're going to add today.
Sure. Thank you. We're here since 1800, so I hope I don't look that old on screen.
That's a really amazing stat. I don't even think I knew that. That's really cool. Kofi, you've got an unbelievable background and story from entertainment to unbelievable niche markets. You're bringing value to consumers, to your agents. Tell us a little bit about your companies that you have and what you're doing.
Sure. Since we're starting with team affiliations, I am a Seahawks fan. I live in LA, so I still root for the LA teams as well. Raiders are my second team because they're in my heart, because I had a shot with the Oakland Raiders when they were in Oakland. Now they're in Vegas. But yes, I am Kofi Narte. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Real Estate and Development. And it's I saw it on the other screen. It probably auto-corrected, which is global with no A. So I did for some people here, but it's global with no A. We are based in Beverly Hills, but globally connected. I've been at several major firms over the course of my career, and at a certain point realized I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to bring more to our clients. I kind of liken it to the banking model of going for parts of the wallet, right? Where they start with your checking account, then your savings account, then your retirement accounts and investment accounts. And in general, our industry, especially on the residential side, is totally underdeveloped. The barriers to entry are too low. I criticize our industry in an effort to make us all better, but there's greater opportunity converting from an agent to an advisor. And I think in terms of where the market is going and protecting our value add and value proposition in the market, the sooner we can all become advisors, the better. And so I've created a firm based around that. We're a private real estate firm. Our core competency is residential real estate, but now we've also added an investment component to that. We syndicate deals, allowing our clients and some of our sports and entertainment clients to invest with us. We bought over $25 million of properties in the last 12 months in the LA market. And then, per the name, Global Real Estate and Development, we work with international development partners on all parts of the funnel, from selling finished product to a $1 billion city that we're overseeing the build out and development of in Belize, that's going to incorporate sustainable development goals, blockchain technology, carbon credits, and a lot of pretty amazing things. So excited to share today.
That's really, really amazing, and thank you, because I know from just getting to know you on our initial call, lots of our listeners today are going to get two really different perspectives from two really great leaders, and I just think it's going to be an amazing show. And our sponsor, John Voigt, is Director of Marketing and Digital Communications and at Property Base. John, thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit about what you do at Property Base.
I should follow up. I am a New Yorker living in Denver. I'm now a transplant Broncos fan. I'm a New York Rangers hockey fan by heart. I can't be a Knicks fan. It's been a rough decade and a half, so to speak. But continuing on the trend, what I love about this is why Property Base, powered by Lone Wolf. We were recently acquired. Why is a tech person even on this panel? Well, it's quite simple. I'm a Marcom guy first and foremost. I come from hospitality and tourism. I've been in this space for about 5 years, and I really love the alignment. What Joan is going to talk about, what Kofi's going to talk about, is this future that real estate hasn't changed, it's changed. It's not changing, it is changed. The evolution is upon us, all of us, whether or not you're on the BHHS side or in Kofi's side, and anywhere in between, team, agent, independent, brokerage. And Lone Wolf's vision aligns perfectly with that, right? It's keeping agents, brokers, keeping you as the professionals at the center and the heart of the transaction, and truly keeping, I don't want to sound cliche, but the human concept. Everything that we're going to talk about here, and we've talked to Sherry at length in our previous calls, has to come down to a human, empathetic notion. And I think that's, and that's something that buyers and sellers have come to expect, and they can only come to expect that truly from a real estate professional. I'm going to step back from my computer there a little bit. And Lone Wolf and what Property Base is doing now as part of the Lone Wolf brand, as we've gone through a number of acquisitions this year, is keeping brokers and agents at the center of that with the consumers in mind, and allowing all of you on this call, whether or not use our tools and so forth, to create better experiences. And what Kofi's about to share and what Joan's going to share, and I'll dabble in this if I may, are all about creating some really cool experiences that can align with new niches and talk about sport. I mean, we're going to talk about sports. We just talked about that. I mean, Joan, you didn't mention the Jets. I don't know if that's something that we need to consider for Fox and Roach in the future.
I guess we should. I guess we should. I'm an office at New York.
There's your niche right there, right? So I'll let Sherry continue on, but really exciting to be here. Thank you all for joining, and Sherry, take it away.
Yeah, and this slide is sort of indicative of what your company does and the over 4,000 clients that you provide services for.
I think we actually have like 1.5. I mean, now that we're part of the Lone Wolf brand, the numbers are still coming in, but I think we're the largest tech provider now as a family in North America, 1.5 million agents. I'm not going to jump the numbers, but what you can really see here is the pace is accelerating, right? And Joan and Kofi and others who are finding these niche markets are answering the call because expectations are changing. Mm-hmm. And how can you align those expectations? What we feel is technology is a means to those ends. So I'm not going to spew software and tech things and so forth. It's really about, mm-hmm. how can you improve those human interactions and those human experiences? Well, I'm really excited. Can you tell?
Yes, I think the topic was brought upon, in collaboration with you. So that's exactly what, and we need to hear this. Brokerages, agents, managers, executives, we all need to be faster than, what's happening in the change and using old methods, old tools. If we're not ahead of it, we're going to be, it'll just go right by, and we see that happen. So we just talked about our companies, our scope. I want to talk about how do we even think about creating niche markets? I mean, when you're sitting there as an executive, you're sitting there trying to come up with other revenue streams, maybe, but you also might be saying, what do our consumers want? And John just started to talk about that. What are people asking for? There are several that are going to be real obvious today that I think you're going to hear, and then others that you're going to say, I hadn't even thought of that. So I'm going to start. I'll start with Joan, and let's talk about some of the, how did you go about the evolution of creating these, niche markets? How did you say we need to do this? Consumers want it, our agents want it, both? And then give us some examples of the ones that you've put into your organization, and then Kofi, you can follow up with yours as well.
First, thank you, Sherry. And first, I want to comment on Kofi's previous comment about being a trusted advisor. Or advisor. We have always said to our sales associates, that's what you need to be. You need to be the trusted advisor, because you can't be the salesperson. People need to trust you. It's the biggest purchase in their lives many times. In residential real estate, people haven't, especially first-time home buyers, for instance. So just getting to niche markets. We are so large that we as a company cannot indulge in a niche, but we have many niches. And it comes through, and we advise our agents to find that niche where they can be dominant in their market. So, but I would tell you that we're very strong in luxury. That's just where we got our start, and we have many offerings to our sales associates around luxury to make their jobs easier when they have expensive properties that they're marketing. The other niche markets that I have seen, some people work with just first-time home buyers. Some people are working with investors, and smart agents do that. I think Kofi mentioned it. If you're an agent and you work with investors, you have many transactions that will occur with that one client, and then if you're their trusted advisor, they're going to come back to you, and you're going to have repeat business. When I think about luxury, when I think about niches, it's the high end. We also have a second home market because we're at the shore markets. So that's a niche in of itself. And the way we can market that to our non-shore agents to make referrals to the shore, and then our shore agents have those referrals. And so it's a back and forth because our shore markets are fed through our core market, and so I would say that's another niche that we're involved in. And through it all, what you said earlier, it is a people business, and we're going to talk about culture in one of your other, as we move on, but it is first the people business, but the technology that John talks about is imperative. And not only knowing it and dabbling in it, but you really, in today's world, need either an assistant to help you, but there are so many things you need to do so that the consumer trusts you and thinks that you're current, whether it's social media or whether it's something on Google or whatever it is, whether it's reviews, whether it's the back end office and making sure that the transaction goes smoothly and that the consumer can see their transaction from anywhere, right? That they want 24/7 access and they want to know right now. So all of that, although that's not niche, that's really, really important to support any of our agents in any of the business that they do.
And I think, well said. I know that we take for granted, a lot of us, that luxury is we do it all the time in some of our markets, in some parts of the country. It really is a niche or a niche for agents, sales associates to make a point of being intentional about specializing in that particular service.
And they do best when they do. There are agents who dabble in luxury, but then there are agents who that is their niche and that is what they do. And they dabble in the average sale price, right? They're not going to turn away business, but they focus on marketing to that consumer and marketing those properties.
Excellent. I've got an additional slide here. So Kofi, talk to us about your niches that have been successful to creating value for your consumers.
Sure.
And how those came about. Actually, also like how those came about. Was it a need? Was it something you saw as an opportunity, or both?
Sure. I'm going to preface my comment by saying that I can tell when I've had a good cup of coffee because my mind just races. And as Joan was talking, I was just thinking of a lot of different ideas around even positioning yourself, positioning statements. And I hope this is being recorded. So I'm just going to rattle off kind of a little bit about what we're doing, a little bit about what popped into my head just now, and hopefully it's coherent and makes sense. But that's part of my goal, is to share enough ideas that one of them sticks and changes somebody's life, changes somebody's business. So I'll just spit it all out, right? I think first is even identifying what kind of niche or niche you're going after, right? There are different types of niches. There's demographic niches, there's geographic niches, there's, sports and entertainment is one that, I harnessed a long time ago because of my own sports and entertainment background. Also, an understanding that the space was different, the needs were different of the clientele, first-time home buyers, senior living, high rises and condos. These are all different niches that you can develop within the industry. So I agree with Joan. You have to be, focus on a niche. You have to be known for a niche. Otherwise, you're going to be lost in the sea of sameness, right? This is an industry that's just oversaturated. This is why we have to elevate beyond, order takers to advisors and to owning a niche where somebody thinks of sports and entertainment and they think of Kofi, or somebody thinks of high rises and they think of you, or they think of senior living and they think of, Sally, who sells senior living. So these are things that once you identify what it's going to be, the next question becomes, why you? Why should you be the person to own that niche? And even if you don't own it now, how can you position yourself to then own it, right? And for me, it started with, to be honest, if I'm being totally transparent, I started with condos and townhomes. That was my niche. I owned a townhomes, 2003, I got licensed. I was HOA president. I'm like, I know this space. And so I bought every URL that had to do with condos and townhomes. And I made a list of all the things that I thought would be relevant and pertinent to condos and townhome buyers and sellers. And usually condo buyers, it's their first purchase. So down payment is important. So I found out a list of lenders who understood, different programs for them. I would write my listings in a way where we would credit part of the closing costs because closing costs were tight. And so I just started thinking of the nuanced differences to really own that space and be an expert in that space. As I transitioned in volume and transitioned in price points, I went into sports and entertainment because it was also something that I had exposure and access to. But then I built out a list of 35 ways to protect celebrity clients in a transaction that nobody else was thinking about, right? And I did that before I went to market. And so why you becomes the question that you have to answer before you go into any of these spaces. And then you start building it. You don't say I'm doing it and then build it. You build it and then say you're doing it. Because once you get that first opportunity, it's an opportunity to leverage and then build upon and grow in that space. If you blow that first opportunity, you're starting back at ground zero. So these are all things that you do want to have to build. So there are different niches you can own. And even as it relates to, additional revenue for your brokerage, and I'm sure we'll touch on this as we go forward, it's owning that space, having a brand that speaks to that space, where if somebody encounters your brand before they encounter you, they still have a sense of the space that you own. They still have a sense of what your brand is and what your brand promise is and what the expectations of working with you will be like, right? This can all be communicated through your website, through your social media, and so forth. Then when they engage with you, it's validated. And then when they work with you, the expectations are exceeded, right? So you think about that process as well. This is all part of owning that space once you've identified the space that you're going to own, and really growing into it. So for us, sports and entertainment was one that I built for years. We've also now added the investment piece. We've added new development to that as well. And then we've also added a few ancillary businesses that I'll touch on as we go forward that really relate more to the brokerage level or the team owner level, escrow, ancillary services like that. So I think I've kind of said enough here. I'll stop there.
No, just
right. Sherry, could I add something? Because Kofi brought to my mind. You're absolutely right about the niches and whether it's condos or what. We have agents in our Center City market who own a condo. That's what they do, and we have others, who own the various niches that Kofi talked about. And I think you're absolutely right. I think that is so. It works so much better than being a generalist. It works so much better than being a generalist. Just a specialty really brings you to top of mind. And I think as well that you've got to then embrace social media and stand in front of that condo and advertise yourself and market the properties and do everything you can. But you do have to know it, live it, breathe it. Because and in a condo building, for instance, I mean, there's so much that goes on that if you're an insider, you do know, and if you're not, you could really disappoint one of your buyers. So I ditto everything that Kofi said. You really need to focus.
Yes, and we sell ourselves and our value proposition first, and then we sell a property. I mean, we are selling why me, and it just resonated out of what you just said. We are recording this for sure. So everything you said just got recorded, which is great. So everyone can hear it again, including us.
Yeah, but I want to listen again myself.
I know we when you share and collaborate, everybody just comes out, you bring and you get. So I wanted to comment to this, when you become synonymous with, if you don't own your market, somebody else will. And this is, when you're talking about the condo thing, I remember being like the condo queen for my first 3 years, and I didn't even try it. It became like that. And then I was like, oh yeah, I sell everything in that one neighborhood. But branding yourself to be synonymous with whatever it is, luxury, property management, sports and entertainment, first-time buyers, which are good and bad, whatever, people like them.
Seniors, seniors. We have agents who really, they have brochures and they market themselves and they work with seniors, and there's a lot of business to be done and a lot of hands to be held, and you have to know your stuff with that.
That's
and
right.
You have to use more font.
Right. And you won't be using texting for them probably. I mean, to Kofi's point and to John's point, right? You'll be using
you never know.
But I think that's really key. I mean, there's part of the branding, to Sherry's point, there's that identity and the image factor. Now this is back to, branding 101. This is your identity. Does your image match what you feel it is? And are you matching what, your list, it's out there as?
And does your knowledge match? If you fake it, people will see right through that.
And I think that's what's
Yeah.
exciting about the space, right? I mean, I think what you all are saying is elevating the idea of a real estate professional. Let's boost that phrase up to bring it beyond what, you know, maybe it has been felt in the past, or what, you know, the generalization of it could be. And the trusted advisor consultant, that gets us excited. How can we help you do that?
Unfortunately, there's probably 2 million realtors and maybe 5.8 to 6 million, if you're lucky, homes sold a year. That just doesn't make mathematical sense.
No.
So there are so many people who are doing nothing, and then they work with someone and they're doing them a disfavor if that happens.
That's right. That's right. And I just had someone I coach here in Atlanta say to me yesterday morning, she said, I am focusing on seniors, Sherry, and here's why. And she had done all this research, and, you know, Joan, you just said it. It's like, that is, first of all, there's the turnover in where she wants to sell all these homes is exactly the right point, the right timing. She has the credentials and certification. And she said, that's my new thing. And I'm going to just go at it, you know, 100%. We know there are other benefits, and some of these niches become part of your culture. They become part of what your company is known for. I remember having one-stop shopping. You know, I know, Joan, your company was doing that way before it was a normal thing. My company was also, and, you know, where I worked previously. And, you know, being able to provide what the consumer wants. And Jen, you were talking about this at the beginning. It is answering the need because it is ever changing. And so one of those that definitely can impact your bottom line is offering mortgage, title, insurance services. So Joan, would you expand a little bit about the history of how you incorporated that into your value proposition at Fox & Roach Realtors?
Sure. Well, we are a home services company, and we're owned by Home Services now, but way before we were owned by Home Services, we were a home services company. We were not a real estate company. And I think you have to make that clear. As you know, talk about niche, you need to make sure you market that well. We started in the 1980s, knowing that there's more than one sale to be had from you know, I'm in a hotel room, my phone is ringing. Who could be calling? That doesn't make any sense. So we started in the 80s, and we started with mortgage, and we added title. And we knew early on that the consumer wanted it easy, and they wanted it simplified. And we knew that if we were under one roof and we could talk to each other, you know, kind of seamlessly, that the transaction would go much more smoothly. And so we knew that we could profit from it, but we also knew that the consumer wanted it easy. It's a complicated transaction. They don't do it very often. And so if we could provide that and simplify the process, we knew that would bring us more consumers who, you know, they would be happy, and we would get great referrals. And we added insurance. Actually, we've had insurance in we grew through mergers and acquisitions. So one of the companies that we merged with had insurance from early on. So I guess we've had all three services for a long time in our company. And it has, in bad markets, really helped us. We've always made a profit in brokerage, always. But I'm not sure that we could have given the services that we've given to our agents and stayed afloat as well as we did if it didn't have to do with our core services and the rest of our businesses. And some years, you know, mortgage does great. I mean, look at the year last year with the refinances and everything. I mean, mortgage is on fire. And some years, brokerage is on fire. And some years, you know, and title's just a steady Eddie, and insurance is something that everybody needs. And we've recently, we used to just sell homeowners insurance. And I said, well, why just homeowners insurance? Let's see what other insurance we can provide to the consumer so that it's simple for them. And so, you know, it's life now and auto and everything else. So that's how and we've evolved over time. We've had various names for our mortgage company. I think it was Mortgages Unlimited when I started in the business, and then it went to Trident. Now we're part of Prosperity, and so yeah, it's the other thing I would say, it's part of our culture. We're going to talk about culture, but it is part of our culture. And we've always acted, we've never treated those services as though they were vendors or ancillary. We've always treated them as part of our family. And that has made a difference in our success ratios, a big difference, because we say, you know, if you have someone working in your office, why would you give the referral to someone outside of your office? We're all family here. And so it really helps with our success ratios, and it really satisfies what the consumer needs.
Well, and you think about, you know, you walk into a Target and there's a Starbucks in there, right? I mean, I don't have to go to Starbucks and then go to Target. I can just go to Target and get a Starbucks before I start shopping if I want. 9 out of 10 consumers want the convenience of one-stop shopping. Those brokers that have decided to add that as a model, that has to be, I mean, it's a decision that you have to make as an owner, brokerage owner, or if you're affiliated, franchise, whatever. It is part of the culture. And I think the value, there's two values in my mind. I see the value of being a value proposition to the consumer, for sure, ease of transaction, lesser cost, you know, less room for margin of error. But the benefits to the agents are they can go to the next deal. You know, they know that this pre-approval is going to be 99.9% valid.
Right.
And it really helps when they're not working with Sphere people to know that the person they just met at the open house or the call in on a lead can actually is getting a loan because it's in the hands of your, you know, partner. And I love, you know, I always used to say if you go into Walmart or you go into like CVS and you ask, you know, where can I get, I'm going to pick up my prescription, but I'm going to ask where I can get my pictures developed, right? They're not going to say across the street at Walgreens, they're going to say aisle 7 has picture development. You can do it right here, right? You can do everything you need to right here. And you're right. We all work at a title company. If that's your model, we all work at a mortgage, title, and insurance company. And I always tell the sales associates, all of those people know they work at a real estate company and they wouldn't give 3 different realtors out because you'd have a heart attack. We did that, you know?
That's absolutely true. And I would also say that we won't, one of the things that happens sometimes is that a consumer shops rates, right? And they get a really low rate from a company that's kind of an off company, and they never get to settlement or something happens along the way. We won't take an application and promise something we can't deliver. So if somebody their credit is not quite yet right, then we'll work on repairing their credit. We won't overpromise and underdeliver. And I think that many companies that are unaffiliated may, just for the business.
Right. And see what sticks. I agree. I'm going to grab onto this because it's relevant. Thanks for all of that. And Kofi, where would you say, if you want to add to that area? I don't know if anyone's talked about property management yet. Do you have property management?
I would love to have property management. I don't have it. We've looked at various companies. We got down the aisle with a few. We've grown through mergers and acquisitions mostly, and I want to work where we have expertise. I don't want to start up as a novice into that segment. That's a very profitable segment and it's worthwhile being in. But I'd rather acquire somebody than start it. And yeah.
I think that's a great point, you know, and just to back up just a little bit, you know, putting my business school hat on, I remember we talked about product market fit, right? That's the more relevant and current term, product market fit, how well your product satisfies market demand. Before that, there was something called a SWOT analysis. That's like old school MBA. Yes.
SWOT.
I know SWOT analysis.
So your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So you look at all of those things as it pertains to how you're going to go to market, your go-to-market strategy, how you're going to fit into the market when you're creating your widget. I've always said that you should reverse those letters, though, to what I describe as OTSU. So you look at the opportunities and threats, and then look at your strengths and weaknesses to satisfy those, right? Because if you create an amazing, this is business 101 for any industry, you create an amazing widget, but there's no market for it, it doesn't make sense. So even as we back up to a niche market, I've had people reach out to me and say, hey, I want to do sports and entertainment. And I'm like, you're in Des Moines, Iowa. Like, who's going to be your client base, right? So we have to think about that. And then when you look at the opportunities that are there, for Joan, you have 5,000 plus agents, you have an immediate adoption pool that even if you get a small percentage of it, you're going to experience some type of revenue depending on the service that you're providing. But also to her point, I think she brings up an extremely important point to dig into, which is, what are your core competencies? What are your actual strengths? Where do you have an advantage in that you can push to the point of unfair advantage? And then where should you partner? Where should you acquire? Where should you merge to satisfy these other things that you have an opportunity to service, right? So when you look around, sometimes you see a need that you can fulfill. Or you look around and you have a client and you say, they're going to need this anyway. Why can't we provide it? Right? And then are we the best people or team to provide it? Or should we partner with, hire, acquire, merge with the right company to provide it? So I always use these terms. I used it today in my meeting. I had my team meeting this morning. How do we go from B to A plus to A++ service? And if we can't provide A++ service in that category, we need to partner with whoever can. We need to merge with them. We need to bring them on board, white label it. But we need to make sure that if we're going to embrace that additional revenue stream, that we can deliver at a level that's an unfair advantage in that specific category as well.
Oh, I love that.
So well said.
Unfair advantage. So I have a question that just came in. Hi, Kofi. This is someone who's interested in finding out more information on your Belize development and your plans, and where can he go? Because he's very passionate about the country and looking to connect with others.
Excellent, excellent. They can go to my website, Global Red with no A, so GLOBL red.com. And you can email me, Kofi, K-O-F-I, at globalred, GLOBLRED.com. I'm happy to share additional information on what we're doing there. I'm happy, there's plenty of room for collaboration because it's a huge project and we're really excited about it.
One of the questions I'm going to pose to both of you is that companies listening to this that are kind of scared to, and Kofi, you just described the plan for how to establish whether you're going to deliver that niche service or not. And if you can't do it at A++ level, partner with somebody or decide not to do it. I completely loved that entire, that whole dialogue was awesome. For those listening, for the people listening who want to branch out, who are trying to do the SWOT assessment backwards, which I loved too, what advice can you both give to the companies out there listening who say, okay, I have an idea. I don't know if I should, the risk, should I try it? Where do they start? What should they consider? And John, feel free to jump in as well. Kofi, I'll start with you this time.
This is from my own selfish experience, but I would say first you should convince yourself why you shouldn't do it. And if you're not convinced why you shouldn't do it, then explore why you should do it. Then it comes back to the question of why you, right? And I'm speaking to the general human nature of, I'm just going to make a huge assumption, the types of people who are listening in. I'm assuming that the majority of you are entrepreneurs. I'm assuming that the majority of you may even be tethered to real estate in some capacity. And as entrepreneurs, we have shiny object syndrome, which means we haven't even maximized the capacity of where we are and realized the full potential of what we're doing before we're trying to start something else. And so my own personal mantra, because I was so guilty of it, became focus and finish. Focus and finish is something I've lived by for over 12 years now. Focus on this before you start that. Focus on this before you announce it. Finish this to completion before embarking on a new venture. And so that is the first piece of advice that I would give them. And then you go back to that analysis of where do you have unique opportunities, whether it's access to a client base that can utilize a service that you have or may not have, but can bring in, right? A unique ability to service clients in that capacity. And even from a company level, right? Back to Joan's point, we're much smaller. My firm is much, much smaller, but you have 5,000 plus agents. Even if you have 500 plus agents, you have an immediate test group, you have an immediate adoption group where you can implement things at a faster scale and scale even faster. But what should those things be, right? So I kind of look at myself and I think critically, I'm following a little different model than most, and I kind of stay out over my skis, so I kind of stay ahead of myself, but not too far ahead of myself. And so I look at it as, what can we do? What are we doing well that we can do even better? What should we not even attempt to do? And then at the highest level, which is me, because it's my firm, how can I leverage some of my abilities, skills, resources, or what have you to add secret sauce to these ancillary ventures and make them succeed even more? Where does the 1 + 1 = 5, right? Not 1 + 1 = 2, because that's destined for mediocrity or failure. 1 + 1 = 5. If I lend 10 minutes of my time to this 1 hour venture, can it go through the roof? Or if I lend, half of my time to this, is it going to be exponentially greater? And vice versa. If we bring in that partner, will they add to our business in a way that's exponentially greater, right? And every blue moon, there's something that's not revenue driven. It's just value add that brings more people into your circle, right? And it's not necessarily, I don't believe in lost leaders in our industry, but for lack of a better term, it's just something where you either are breaking even, but it's bringing people into your ecosystem, or you're already servicing them at a higher revenue opportunity. And this is just a value add to keep that client, keep them coming back, and keep them referring other people to you because you've done so much to improve their process.
Outstanding. And I have to ask, I see behind you, it says Mamba mentality, and I can't see the rest of it. So would you read that for us?
The constant quest to be the best version of oneself. And obviously this is from Kobe Bryant, and it's a constant reminder not to get too philosophical, but that's why I talk fast, because life is not promised. And we just have to get after it every single day and chase our potential every single day. Not chase everything, but chase our potential, the potential of our business, the potential of our capacity of what we have to give back to the world. So I just see that as a daily reminder to leave it all out there every single day, because nothing is promised.
That's outstanding.
Wow.
And I love that you said focus and finish and convince yourself of why you shouldn't do it. And also the capacity. We can boil the ocean, and great thinkers and great leaders. I mean, I love that phrase. I love that. Being told, can we finish the first, 5 things that we're still working on before we start another one? But when you have that capacity and you have know when to stay in your own lane and know when to go for it and leave it out there. I love all of that. And it was just great that you just even read that sign behind you. I love it. So Joan, what can you add to this for?
That's a hard act to follow, Kofi. But yeah. So we talk about our unique value proposition. Like, what is it that you do best, that you do better than anyone else? And Kofi referred to that. And you've got to figure that out. And then you've got to market that. You've got to be that. You've got to market that, and then you grow. I think that you really have to know who you are, right? You can't be all things to all people. Because I watch companies that say, that's a great model, I'm going to imitate it. Well, you'll never be as good as they are at what they do. You'll always be the second best because they got to where they are, on that model. So you have to figure out what works for you and works for your company. We often, and I do agree that it should add, when you bring people in or you bring companies in, it should be a value add of some sort, and it financially is best. There are times when you make decisions that it's not going to, it may gain you market share. Like, we're a market share kind of company. We have our goal is to have #1 market share in every market that we're in, and so that's how we look at things. So, should we be in this market? Can we get to #1? It's part of the reason why we haven't gone to states that don't know us, because if I would go to a state where another company had market share, it would be really hard to catch up, right? But if I'm in where we are #1, I can spread my wings and move outward, and people have heard of us. So yeah, we all also look at things, and I think you need to review this a lot. What are you doing that you should stop doing? What are the stupid rules? What are the stupid things that you just have done because you've done them before and you need to stop it, right? Because that's not, people say, well, that's how we do it. Well, why? You have to ask yourself why.
Okay.
And then what should you start doing that you're not doing? What are you missing out on? I think that's really, really important. And
I think
That too.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I would add to that, don't be afraid to specialize. Because I get that question a lot of, well, if I specialize in this, what if I miss out on this business? Or what if I miss out on that business? I spent years of missing out on business. As soon as I went for the sports and entertainment realm, I had people call me and say, oh, we didn't call you, we just bought a house for $2 million or sold a house for $1.8 million because we thought you only worked with sports and entertainment people. I'm like, oh my God, right? And you feel those moments. But I wouldn't be on this Zoom call today if I hadn't specialized, 10 years ago. Ended up writing a book about it. As you guys tell, I'm inspired and motivated. It's one of the underlying themes of our brokerage is we want to inspire the process. And I was going to write a book on motivation and focus to finish, and I had all these tips around that. And when I started seeking advice on even writing a book, the questions people asked me were, well, what are you known for? What would people trust your advice on? And what are you uniquely positioned to talk about? And I love Tony Robbins, I love all that stuff, but I wasn't uniquely positioned to talk about that. So I focused on sports and entertainment because that's what I was uniquely positioned to talk about. And, I had a book that made an Amazon bestseller list. And now I'm speaking about a lot of these things. And sports and entertainment became the brand that I built, but it's never been more than 50% of my business. And it's still funny how people will pigeonhole you. But hey, I'm like, if you're talking about me, that's what matters. Right? If I'm in the conversation and I stay relevant in the conversation because I've become known for something, that's what matters. And so I would tell people, don't be afraid of that part of it, of really specializing and really standing out. And when you really look around at the high level or high achieving agents, they've specialized. They specialize in a geographic farm or they specialize in a unique demographic niche, and they've really accelerated that.
so true. So true.
Yeah, and Joan, I wanted to mention also that you did really, when you were talking about market share, you are a company that was out in front, getting rid of those internal processes that were impeding on being team friendly. You have a huge amount of teams. You have I've interviewed you in the past before, and you've sat on panels for me about why, you are so team friendly and help your teams grow into being thriving like mega teams to domestic teams and everything in between. And I know that took a lot of internal, challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Are we doing, why do we still do this? It doesn't work today. It's from the 80s. It's from the 90s. It's from 2000, whatever. And that is for those out there listening, again, you can have a niche in providing team support.
Yes.
Could you just expand on that for like a quick minute?
Absolutely. This actually, it first entered our policy manual in, I think, 1999, even before 2000. And we realized that the consumer was demanding more and more. And the consumer, one agent, it was really hard for them to work on their own as a single entrepreneur and fulfill all the needs that the consumer was beginning to have. So teams were growing. And we wanted to support that because we thought that we always focused on the consumer, as well as the agent, but we focused on the consumer. And we knew that there were so many more demands. The internet was coming into be, and it was just causing a lot of distraction and agents having to be here and do this and answer that. And so we started to support it, and it grew slowly initially. Some people just had two people together and they were a partner. Some formed a 3-person group. Today we have 30-person teams. We have I'm not sure that we have anything bigger than that, but we have large teams all the way to husband, wife, just partnerships. And we saw that teams were going to really excel. We kind of foresaw that, and they have. And the teams today in our company are more than half of our agents and make up a team. And they are thriving. They these team leaders are really entrepreneurs, and they're much more agile than a company of our size can be. And so they have they embrace various niches, or they embrace various marketing techniques, or lead generation, or what have you. And they bring business to their team members. And they also when you grow to the size, we have a great education department, and we have our managers coach, and we have great trainers. But these team leaders who are so entrepreneurial and have done so much business, aren't they more credible in some ways than someone who is a teacher? I mean, I'm a past teacher. I'm passionate about teaching, but I would say that I never did $100 million in business a year. So somebody who's doing that is certainly going to be able to offer their team member more than I could as far as business knowledge on a daily basis. So I think that teams are the way of the future. I think that we say that they're a business within our business. We're the umbrella for the brokerage. They don't have to take on all of that responsibility and make sure the lights are on and the janitor came and all of that, and they can run their business pretty seamlessly, and they can make more money under our umbrella than if they went out and opened their own business, because it's expensive, and they don't necessarily think so. But once you open your own location and you have people working for you, and you have health insurance and you have all the other things, they don't have, so I think that I think it fulfills the needs of the consumer. And there are a lot of agents who are not entrepreneurial, but they're really good service providers. And so they can work on a team, and they don't have to be the rainmaker, and they can satisfy clients' needs really well. And they're happy that way. They don't need to have their name in lights. Right. And then you have those that want their name in lights, and it supports that. So I think it makes great business sense. I think that it's really hard for an individual agent today, harder than it ever was, to do business and compete with the teams. So I think we made a good decision there.
I do too. And I'll add just one thing to that. When you have the winning team, it is so, to be on the winning team, if I'm a single agent, I want to be on the winning team. If I'm on a team, I want to be in the team that's on the winning team. The recruiting opportunities, the other sales that come from having the big teams in your offices, all that other business is being done by some of those agents that are in the, second, third, fourth quartile. And, everyone's concerned about losing company dollar. It's actually a smart decision to go this route, again, because of the opportunities that brings in recruiting.
Yes, and I think that your company dollar is less by percentage, but I often say it's certainly more in dollars. So forget the percentages, look at the dollars, and what do you have without it? And I would say our top teams attract other top teams. Exactly. So that it's kind of like top agents attract top agents. If you have an office of all underproducing agents, it's going to really be hard to get a really top agent, right? You're going to have to kind of gradually move the needle. But so our teams are invaluable to us.
Yeah, and it's actually
they're really smart and good business people.
Mm-hmm. They are. They really are. I know a lot of them, and I think the model, we shouldn't, brokers listening should not turn their head to why this is an issue. It should, lean into it and provide it, learn how to provide it, learn how to make change.
Yeah. If you don't, your brokerage it will fail. And I would tell you, they do take more space. They do take more of your resources. They do, but in some areas, but they take less in other areas, because they often are self-providing. They have their own, admins. They have their own. Exactly. They have their own business going on, and why not be supportive and help that to grow
and leverage it. I'm glad you talked about that. The future of the niche markets in all of your perspectives, what do we think is happening for the future of these services? Having sort of, if you have, you know, a crystal ball, which I know you don't, but if you were to say, Sherry, I think these are going to be the next niches in the real estate space, what do you think those would be? And we only have a couple minutes here, so I ask you to maybe give me a brief answer, but Kofi, what do you think?
I think it's going to come together and then go back apart. I think we're going to bring a lot of things into one sphere, one ecosystem, and then it's over the next 10, 20 years, it'll get parsed back out. The things that stay, I think there can be sort of a common through line culturally through the experience, and even in terms of culture, like what's the driving force around bringing these things together. But they each have to have their own identity and own value proposition for ultimate success, right? So the future, I do think you have to specialize or die. So yes, I'm a believer in niche markets. You do have to do that. I think this idea of bringing everything into one place, there's so many people trying to do it. You can catch the wave, maybe make a little money, but it's not going to be long-standing in my opinion. And that's, we'll see if I'm right or not in about 10, 15 years.
Right. And I'm curious about the iBuyer, you know, niche, if you want to call that a niche, and how that will work over the years. I mean, I think that it's important as a broker to have an affiliation with an iBuyer company in case that's what the consumer wants. But if we don't simplify the transaction, I think it will take off. And I think part of what is so frustrating to the consumer is the complications and the length of time it takes, and the issues that go on, and with the home inspections and just all of that. And if they can find a simpler, easier way, they're going to, and they should. And I know myself, I've gotten, in the last few months, I get letters on a weekly basis if somebody wants to buy my home, and I have a few different houses, and I've been thinking about selling one or the other, and I keep saying to my husband, maybe we should call this person. And I can't do that, but honestly, it would be really simple. And people would say, well, you may not get top dollar. You may or you may not, but that may not be on everybody's mind, right? I think that some consumers would like the ease instead of the dollars. So I think we have to be very cognizant of that and make sure that we, as the real estate industry, help to that transaction to be easy. And just a future, and it's not a niche, but you know, I worry about DOJ and our business and what will happen, and what people are looking at, and the perception that the consumer has of what realtors do and how much they make.
Right.
I think that needs to be something that we all pay attention to.
I'm glad you brought that up. You know, there's so much in this hour that I'm so
We could go on, right? We could have a 3-hour session.
I'm so glad I got to moderate this. And, you know, before we end, and I just want to say, Kofi, what's the name of your book and how do we go find it?
Yeah, I want to read it.
I'll show you. It's right here.
Okay.
Oh, he perfectly timed that. That's a perfect plug right there.
Perfect timing would have been sitting right next to me, but of course I have it in my office. It's called Celebrity: How to Build a Successful Sports and Entertainment Business. It's on Amazon. So if you just look up Celebrity or look up my name, it'll
all right.
Great name of the book. And you're all of you are so motivating, so inspiring today. I really feel like I've gotten so much out of this, and I know our listeners definitely have. I will say we have disruptors and we have distractors, and we have all kinds of people trying to change our industry. And I think some are things we need, some are things that we don't. And I think, you know, Kofi, you just said it's going to change and then it stays the same, you know, and this is what I know. This is a business of personal relationships. It is not a one and done transaction. We are best when we're face to face. We are best at providing really top-notch A++ service that is in a consultative mode where we are actually adding unbelievable value for repeat business, for referrals, And agents that are looking at it as transaction after transaction, and companies that look at it that way need to really take a hard look at your business model and say, okay, why are we doing this? What new things can we add? What niches can we add in the coming year? And I hope that some of you, like somebody said earlier, will just take one or two things out of this today and put it into action and try it. And all of these folks here today are available. I know they'd be available to talk to you. Find them on social media. Find them on LinkedIn, Facebook, and everywhere else on social, because I know they'll connect with you and just say, hey, I was on your RISMedia webinar, and introduce yourselves. I'm going to turn it over real quick to our sponsor, Property Base. I know you're giving away a free talk to us today about this unbelievable download for how to compete and win.
Yeah, so Property Base, this is a download, how to compete and win today. It was perfectly set up, perfectly well planned after this call. And this is in essence just a little guidebook that our Lone Wolf team has produced for mastering your market, right? Something that we've talked about. Of course, using the different tools and technologies available to you. But to Joan's point is understanding that, hey, there are ways to simplify the transaction, even though it is still a little cumbersome. So we go through this and talking about, how to own. I mean, we talked a lot about owning something today, how to own that listing. Now, this goes down to kind of the day-to-day agents. Kofi talks about a lot of great things that, I don't think I can follow up very well. Joan, you also have some really good points that, I didn't get to jump in, but this is about pivoting. And I think something that I want to leave off is, a pivot doesn't mean a complete change. It means sticking to your foundational roots, but finding a new focus and making sure that that's part of your business. So how can you manage everything in one place? How can you boost your referral business with the available tools out there and so forth? So we're really excited to present this to the listeners of the RISMedia family, to Joan's family as well, and to Kofi. I thank you. I thank you, Sherry, for letting me jump in where I can. As you can tell, this is exciting. And I'll leave off that I'm a David Ogilvy fan, not to get too stoic, but from a business perspective, godfather of advertising. And he said in like the 50s or 60s, don't count the people you reach the people that count. And that's just like a story that I think everyone off this call can aim for, right? So thank you again.
I love it. I just saw, and this download is in the, it's available. First of all, it will be in the handout section of the GoToWebinar. So you can go download this amazing how to win and compete. And this is like, I actually took a screenshot of the table of contents just so you could see what great information is in here. So in the handout section for everyone listening, go to webinar control panel and then look down below under your audio and you'll see the handout section. You can just click download. You'll also get it in the follow-up email that is sent out to you probably tomorrow with the playback. We have a question here that I don't want to not answer, so I'm just going to take this, but we have to give like a 30-second answer, okay, both of you. So where do you see the future of referral companies, HomeLight, UpNest, and Ideal Agent? And I think, Joan, I'll let you go first on this one.
I think that any company that has professional sales associates that are top-notch can succeed. I am not sure that these companies have that. I haven't researched it. I don't, and I wouldn't disparage any of them. But I would say that it is very hard for a mediocre sales associate to succeed in this world. And oftentimes, a lot of the disruptors, companies coming in, they just don't attract the very top-notch agents. If they would, I think they would do, just fine.
Yeah.
I don't see it, but
yeah, exactly.
So I'll try to answer really quickly as well. I'll reference what I referenced in my meeting this morning was Janela Van Zant, and she said a reason to seize in her lifetime. Everything's a reason to seize in her lifetime. And I think for some of the agents who are just getting started or struggling, those kind of programs are for a season, right? They may have, and some of them are hitting it as an easy button, and I don't encourage hitting it as an easy button. I think do the work and use these things to add to what you're doing already. But if you can get referral business from a company that's going to aggregate the information, source the information, and hand it over to you, charge you a hefty referral fee nonetheless, do it. do it until you get on your own feet, supplement your business with it. Will they be around forever? I don't think so, because I think we're going to elevate the level of our industry as a whole, where we are generating those kinds of leads on our own and servicing clients on our own, so they're coming to us directly. But hey, I've seen it work for some. It doesn't work for everyone, but use it while it's there.
You could use that business to promote other business. So I often tell people when they complain about relocation fees, you can do that business. You won't make a lot of money, but if you use that listing to find more buyers, or you use those buyers to have more referrals, and it'll build your business. So yes, absolutely.
If your brand is focused on service, and I mean, I'm repeating, but if you focus on your brand and don't let these noise distract you, that's your referral business right there. I mean, we don't have enough time to talk about this. Amazon, Nordstrom, what are they all known for?
Next one. Yeah.
Right?
Next webinar, we'll do
exactly.
Worth it or not.
Focus on you. Focus on your brand, and that's your referral business right there.
And one of my agents we coach, she does $40 million with one assistant. It's like 180 transactions, $200,000 average sale price, never spends a dime on any leads. And she says, I work my entire sphere. My lead generation is my entire sphere. So I think you have a good point there. And lastly, Sherry Johnson Coaching, we are giving out a 30-minute free demo to any broker who's looking for broker solutions for recruiting, agent coaching, any type of LMS. We have a Sherry Johnson Academy platform that's state-of-the-art that will help your agents and help grow all of your agents at any level, as well as your management team. You can go to sherryjohnson.com/strategy and set up a call for 30 minutes of talking about your business, what you're trying to accomplish, what niches you might be interested in doing, and how we can help you. So again, I want to thank each one of you. Joan, Kofi, John, thank you. And thank you to Property Base for making this webinar possible today, everybody. Don't forget to download the free giveaway on how to compete and win. Follow Kofi, follow Joan, check in with all of us on social media, and we will see all of you on the next Broker Series RIS webinar. I'm Sherry Johnson. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.